Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a 6-game Major League Baseball slate. This slate is pretty standard here, so let's go ahead and get started. Before I do though, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? It really helps the channel a lot. So we have some pitchers to talk about here first. We'll start with Castillo. He's got an annoying matchup here as he does have 30 fantasy point upside, but he struggled versus Tampa Bay earlier this season, scoring just 10 fantasy points versus them. He has 3 sub 11 fantasy point games in the last 6 as well. But he does have that big time upside, and even though it is a risky situation, most of the top pitchers have kind of tough situations today, so he's included. Max is facing St. Louis today. He's been up and down so far this season, but he has managed 4 quality starts in the last 6 and 4 wins in the last 6. His ceiling is high, but his floor is also low, similar to Castillo. However, his price is interesting considering he's got one of the better matchups on the slate. I do like him quite a bit today, but I do think St. Louis has hit the ball well so far in this series, so do keep that in mind. Uh, and then we'll look at Rodriguez for Detroit. Aaron Judge has been robust, and the rest of the lineup is kind of all over the place right now. He has 25 fantasy point upside. His floor is also below zero, much like most of the expensive options today. But he is in play today as he's got a decent matchup. Then we'll look at Griffin Canning for the Angels. Canning has been over 17 in 5 of the last 6 games, and he's capable of a upside game here. The big concern here is the K rate, and he's capable of a decent fantasy point day. I don't necessarily expect a 25 to 30 point game, but I think it's somewhere in the 20s is definitely doable today, or maybe like 18, 19. So I think he's in play, but he is a little bit risky today. And then we'll look at Peapot for the Dodgers. He won't pitch past 5 innings likely, but he's only given up 2 earned runs in his 14 innings that he's played so far, and he has managed a win in that stretch as well. If he can still win here, that would definitely give him a boost. And he has a good strikeout so far as he's had 5, 6, and 3 in his 3 games. So I do think he's a viable option today, and he's priced pretty fairly for his potential. And then Rodon for the Yankees. He's kind of capped out at 17 fantasy points so far this season. His earned run average has been awful. He is giving up some earned runs, but his K rate has also been inconsistent. He has good potential here versus a weak team, though, so he's a Hail Mary, but he's high risk, high reward as he has a tough situation. Just the fact he hasn't pitched well so far this year. Let's go and get in our catchers here, and we'll start with Will Smith. Now, for the Dodgers, he's been very inconsistent recently. He does have home run potential, but he hasn't really been scoring a ton of fantasy points, and he is overpriced. But if you think he's going to get a home run today, then he's definitely in play at his price point, but he does need to hit a home run to pay off here. Cal Raleigh also in play for Seattle. He's hit the ball very well recently. He's hitting pretty solid fantasy-wise numbers for the most part. He's had a few up and down games, but he does need to get over 10 fantasy points to pay off here, and he can do that even without a home run as he is capable. Um, then we're going to look at Travis d'Arnaud here for Atlanta. He has been very inconsistent recently, but he doesn't play most games. But when he does draw a start, he does have home run potential, and so he is a home runner best play today. He's also been okay against St. Louis this season. Moving to first base here, we'll look at Matt Olson at $6,200. He is very expensive, but he does draw home run potential today. He's high risk, high reward though at his price, so you do need to make sure he hits a home run if you do utilize him. But I do think Atlanta is one of the top teams to stack today, but they are going to be somewhat hard to stack on this particular slate. Josh Naylor also in play for Cleveland. Now he's been hitting the ball pretty well for most of the season. He does have some home run upside. He's had 2 in the last 10 games as well, and that does give him some potential here. He is a little bit risky, but I do like his upside on this slate, and so he's a great option at a cheap price. And then Cody Bellinger also in play for the Cubs, as he's been really good throughout the season, and right now he's hitting the ball extremely well. I like his 4 home runs over the last 10 games as well. He draws good metrics for this game and has nice upside, though also very expensive. But he's a good contrarian play off of Olson. Looking at second base, we'll look at Mookie Betts first. He's hit the ball very well with 4 home runs over the last 10. He does draw good metrics here. He's high risk, high reward, but I do like his upside on this slate. He has been a little bit streaky the last few games, so I'm a little concerned about that. But if you want to swing off of him, then you can go to Ozzy Albies, who's looking for his 30th home run, and he's got really good metrics for this game. Though he has been somewhat boomer bust recently, his price is also super expensive. If you really want to save some money at this position, you can throw at Mod Rosario, who can also play in the shortstop position, as he's been pretty good with the Dodgers. Though his fantasy point production kind of goes up and down, but he does draw good metrics and has good multi-hit potential here. I know that the fantasy points per game is rather low, but he's a cheap enough option, and I do think he's a core play today because I think he's going to have a big game. Then we'll look at third base and Austin Riley. Now, Austin is a great option. He's hit the ball really well with 4 home runs over the last 10. He's averaging over 10 fantasy points a game, though he does need to have a big game to pay off here, but he's had 2 straight games with home runs and 3 in the last 5, so I think he's in a great spot here. Candelario for the Cubs is also in play. Now, he can also play at first base, but he hasn't hit the ball very well recently, but he's been kind of boom or bust with just 3 home runs in the last 10 games. But he's hit the ball better the last few games, and he's scoring over 10 fantasy points in 3 of the last 4. So that gives him a nice upside here. And he was very close to being a guy I was really considering as a core play. Jake Berger also in play for Miami. Now he's been pretty good since he's joined Miami, and his batting average is improving the last 10. He also has big time potential with home run upside, and I like his upside. I like his potential for a lot of fantasy points today. Moving to the shortstop, we'll look at Dansby Swanson for the Cubs. He's priced pretty fairly here for what he's been doing. He's been a little bit inconsistent recently, but he does draw good metrics here. He's also managed to score fantasy points in different ways, and he's been getting multi-hit games and stuff, and he doesn't need a home run to pay off here. Ahmad Rosario can also play here at shortstop, and then Volpe for the Yankees is in play, though he is a very boom or bust play. Not a huge home run guy sometimes, but he has had 3 in the last 10 games, and he does need to hit one really to probably pay off here. But he has good capability for doubles and stuff as well. Maybe the outfielders, we'll start with Acuna. I mean, what are you going to say about Acuna? He's, in the running for MVP, and he's just doing everything, home runs, stolen bases, doesn't strike out much or anything. So he's had 3 strikeouts in the last 10 games, which is impressive. But he has struggled here against St. Louis, but he's got a great matchup today. I think he's going to break out and hit a home run again. So I do like his potential here. Then we'll look at Mookie Betts, who can also play second base. Julio Rodriguez is also in play for Seattle. He's hit the ball very well with 6 home runs in the last 10 games. He's had a couple big, crazy fantasy point games. He is very capable of that, though he does tend to, only have 1 hit in most games. So if he can hit a home run, though, he'll pay off here. But he doesn't even need to hit a home run. He's had doubles and triples and stuff in some games that paid off as well, and he's priced, though it's fairly expensive. He is capable of a big game without the home runs. Then we'll look at Ozuna for the Braves. He's had 5 home runs the last 10. He's been absolutely a monster lately, just scoring fantasy points in just about every game, pretty crazily. While he's hot, he's definitely a great guy you want to look at, as he's been about as hot as anybody with almost a 370 average over the stretch. Then we'll look at Michael Harris, who is hitting pretty well recently. He does have some ups and downs, but he's hitting the ball very well. He's not been hitting the home runs this season like we expected, but he does have stolen base potential, and he's getting on base in most games, and that gives him a lot of upside here, especially at his price. Steven Kwan also in play for Cleveland. He's been somewhat inconsistent throughout the season. He's not a huge home run threat, but he is capable of a stolen base or 2, and he's been getting some good fantasy point production games, even without the home runs and stuff. He has that potential. And then we'll look at Toscar Hernandez, who's a little bit expensive today at $4,500, but he's hitting nearly 400 over the last 10 games with 4 home runs. He's really hitting the ball well, and so while he's hitting the ball well, he's definitely in play today. I like his upside, and he has great potential, similar to Ozuna. And then Ian Happ, finally, he's also hit the ball very well recently with 2 home runs over the last 10. He's really improved his hitting over the last about 20 days, so though he does have some low-scoring games mixed in there, he is capable of a good game here, and he doesn't necessarily need a home run to do it. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, and have a nice day.